If you're looking for a premium enclosed intake setup that's going to give your 2019 to 2023 Ranger an improvement in power, response, and of course sound, then this is the setup for you. The S&B intake we have here is a high quality, no tune required intake that provides you with the benefits of an aftermarket setup and an oiled filter with the consistency and heat mitigation properties of your stock intake. It's sort of a best of both worlds scenario. Cold air intakes are some of the most popular modifications people make to their trucks, and for good reason. However, not all intakes are created equal. Many on the market are just an open filter in the engine bay, and while that might be able to pull in a greater volume of air than your stock setup, it's going to be pulling in a lot of hot air from the engine bay itself, which is something you don't want. And that's where an intake like this one from S&B comes in. Now they claim that this is a 48% increase in airflow versus your stock intake, and that overall it's 99.33% efficient in its filtering. So let's take a closer look at how they do that. Now the biggest and most obvious feature of this system is that it is a fully enclosed intake setup. This is a larger air box, and it's going to pull air through this scoop that sits just above the passenger side headlight, so it's going to be pulling in cold air from outside of the truck. S&B also has this clever plug right here in the front that you can pop out, so you can open up the front of the air box a little bit more for optimum performance. But if you're out in the heat or you're going down a dusty trail or something, you can just pop this right back in and help seal the whole thing off. That's going to help keep cooler air coming into your airbox. The top of this is sealed off too, but the plexiglass lid adds some visual interest to the engine bay, and that also means you can check on the condition of the filter without having to disassemble anything. And this too just pops right off using this tab. Now, cooler air means more power and more response, especially in a turbocharged engine like the 2.3 EcoBoost. Now, that large air box is going to feed this equally large filter. This has a lot more surface area than your stock air filter, so it's going to help flow a lot more air through. More air means better combustion, and that means more power. So this filter is also oiled, so on the surface of the pleats, there's a thin layer of oil that is extremely helpful in capturing small particles of dust, dirt, and debris. It really just adds another layer of protection to help keep unwanted stuff from getting sucked into your intake and engine. And you can reuse this filter, so it's going to help save on maintenance costs since you only need to clean and re-oil it occasionally. If properly maintained too, an oiled filter like this one can last you a heck of a long time, so you don't need to worry about replacing this every year or so. And if you drive your truck in dusty or dirty conditions regularly, this will be extremely helpful because you don't have to replace it. Now the intake tube here is really just this small little elbow. It's totally unbaffled, and because it's nice and solid and smooth, it's gonna have some nice resonance to it. So between this, the filter, and that air box, you're gonna get some additional sound here, more intake and turbo noise specifically. And it's also worth noting that this setup does not require you to tune your truck either, so you can just bolt this on and be ready to roll. Construction here is all pretty high quality. The box and the intake tube are made from durable ABS plastic. It's strong, it's lightweight, and it has good heat resistance properties. Now that clear lid I mentioned earlier is constructed from polycarbonate, and all the seals are made from premium thick silicone, so everything is strong and durable. That filter we were looking at earlier is an 8-layer cotton media with some seriously deep pleats to it. So suffice it to say, this is going to be a very stout setup that should last you a good long time. The whole kit is going to run you around $400, and that's pretty standard for the category. But you are getting some really nice features here, and it's going to give you good sound, good results. It's easy to service and put together. So overall, I think this is a very good value for all that you're getting. When it comes to installation, we're going to give this a 1 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 1 hour to complete. Overall, this is a pretty simple installation. Everything you need to get it installed on your Ranger is included in the box, and it is again a totally bolt-on setup where you do not need to tune your truck. We're going to show you how to get this installed in your truck right now though, so for that, let's head on out to the shop and we'll walk you through the process step by step.
For this install, you need a ratchet, a couple 3/8 extensions, a 10, 8, 7, and T30 socket, 19mm wrench, and clip removal tool. All right, today we're gonna be installing it and take on our Ranger, so let's get started. Now, before we start removing our intake, we are going to just disconnect our battery, just in case you may get a check engine light if you don't disconnect the battery when unplugging all the sensors and everything. We're just gonna pop our negative terminal off, grab your ratchet, 10mm socket, loosen this nut. Let's go ahead and pop that negative terminal off and just set that aside. So the first thing we're going to take off is our factory scoop here. So we're going to take our T30 socket and take our 2 screws out. And you should be able to pull this out of the airbox, just like that. So we're gonna start taking stuff off of our factory airbox. So you see there's a couple wiring harnesses and hoses connected. So we're gonna grab our clip removal tool and just pop them off. Got one on the front here. And then one on the back here for our coolant line. Just pop them off like that. Now we have two connectors here and here. We're just going to disconnect this just to make it easier to get everything out. Push down the tab, pull back. Same thing right here. You can see the tab is under this tape here, but that just comes off. Then we have our line. It's going to be two tabs on the side. Pull them back, push them forward. There's one on the top and the bottom. And then I'll pull back like so. You can just set that off on the side. So down towards the bottom of the airbox, we're gonna start at the front and kind of work our way around, disconnecting all the mounting hardware. So we have one more clip here holding on our harness. So grab a clip removal tool, pop that off. Down here, you'll see an 8mm bolt. We're gonna grab our ratchet with a couple extensions and the 8mm socket and take that out. We're gonna loosen our clamp here on the lower intake tube. We're gonna grab our ratchet and 7mm socket. Just loosen that up. That way we'll be able to get that off later, but now we just have one more bolt around the back. Around the back of the intake, you'll find one more 8mm bolt back here. So grab a ratchet with extensions, 8mm socket, take that off. Pull that out. Now we're just gonna lift up on the entire assembly. Just make sure you kind of break the seal in the hose down here. It should come out in one assembly. Just lift that straight up and out of the way. So the only thing we need to take off of our factory airbox to swap over is our sensor right here. Now we just need to turn that to the left and it will release out. There is a little locking tab, which will show you. You just gotta lift up and they'll be able to turn it. You see the sensor right here. Now you see the little tab right there. That's just the one you need to lift up. You can use your clip removal tool and just use that to get under and rotate it. Turn it, and you can pull that straight out. So for our new intake tube, we just need to put in our sensor that we just took out. We do have a rubber grommet for that. And then just our tube that will thread in to the threaded insert in here. We're gonna start with our sensor. You'll see a little tab extending on the side that will line up in the tube itself. Go ahead, just push that in place and turn it to where you need. Take your sensor, gonna line it up, and just do the same thing, just give it a little turn, and that'll lock it in place. Now for our tube, that's just gonna thread in like so. You can go ahead, grab a 19mm wrench and just snug that up. This doesn't need to be crazy tight. And go ahead and set this on the side. Only other thing we need to assemble is our top window. Now this does usually have protective covering on the back and the front. We already peeled that off. It's no big deal. Just peel that off. You're gonna see a groove going around the top of the lid. That is just going to fit like so. In there all the way around. Just work it around. Take your time. It's gonna fit like that. Now there's a couple more things to assemble, but we can do the rest of that in the truck. So we're gonna start off by putting our coupler onto our intake down here. Now there's a larger and a smaller section, so you're gonna have the smaller one with our smaller clamp. Just work that over and just get that seated all the way down. And then for now, we can just throw on our top clamp so we get our intake tube on there, but now we're gonna get our airbox in. So we're ready to get our airbox in. We're gonna just have one thing to put on. That's gonna be our side grommet. It's just gonna go over that nipple right there. And then just slide this down. Make sure all the wiring is out of the way. That's gonna line up in that side hole. And then down like so. So on the inside of the airbox, you're gonna see two mounting points, one here and one here. Now we do have new hardware. We have supplied 10mm bolts. We're gonna thread those in, grab our ratchet with our extension and 10mm socket. Go ahead and tighten those down. So here's where you now have an option. You do have an optional plug for the side of the intake right about here. Now this does give you a little bit more noise if you take it out, but it is more efficient if you leave it in. But that's just gonna snap in place on the side here. Just work it in around that edge, just like so. And we can also get our air filter in. Just gonna tilt that in and get it down through our hole. And then that's just gonna push in and seat on this lip here. Just like that. Now we just have our intake tube to get in place. So we're just gonna put this into our coupler and our air filter pretty much at the same time. But you'll see that will slide into place. And we can go ahead and get all 3 of our clamps tightened. So we'll grab our ratchet with our 8mm socket and tighten down our 3 clamps. There's these 2 down here at the bottom, might be hard to see, but those tighten down. And then our 1-hour filter. Then while we're here, we can get our electrical connectors plugged back in. So we have our 2-pin connector for our sensor on our intake. And then the one we took off of our AC here. And then our line. Get that put on. Make sure you secure down the locking tab. For your coolant line that you took off on the back of the intake here, there is a threaded hole that Christmas tree clip is just gonna push into, securing like so. Last part to put on is our window. That is just gonna seal right over the top. Just push it in place. Last thing we need to do is just reconnect our negative terminal on our battery. Just slide that back over, grab our ratchet 10mm socket and tighten it down. And that wraps up our install of our SMB cold air intake with oiled cleanable cotton filter for our 2019 to 23 Ranger. And remember, for everything Ranger, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.